Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaim Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashti. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, the Hansa Guhya Prayers. Text number 11 onwards. Atishtat satam margam gopam yachaddeepitam pitra pitamahenapi jushtam vaha prapitamahe. The path of goodness traversed by your father, grandfather, and great-grandfathers is that of maintaining the subjects, prajas, including the men, animals, and trees. That is a path you should follow. Unnecessary anger is contrary to your duty. Therefore, I request you to control your anger. So, who's speaking? It was Somdev, right? The moon god, the predominating deity of the moon. He is speaking to Prachetas because they were very angry when they came out of the austerities and the whole earth was filled up with trees and they wanted to burn all the trees. They started burning, in fact. So Somdev or moon god is the predominating deity of moon, of the trees and herbs, all the trees and herbs, and also he is a deity of mind. So when the moon rays come out, the mind calms down. So that was the idea. They were angry, so the moon rays gonna help in calming down the mind. Here the words Pitri Pitamaha, Pitamahainapi Jusham Vaha, Prapitamaha depict an honest royal family consisting of the kings, their father, their grandfather, and their great grandfathers. Such a royal family has a prestigious position because it maintains the citizens of Prajas. The word Praja refers to one who has taken birth within the jurisdiction of the government. The exalted royal families were conscious that all living beings, whether human, animal, or lower than animal, should be given protection. The modern democratic system cannot be exalted in this way because the leaders elected strive only for power and have no sense of responsibility. In a monarchy, a king with a prestigious position follows the great deeds of his forefathers. Thus, Soma, the king of the moon, here reminds the Prachetas about the glories of their father, grandfather, and great grandfathers. And he tells them that you have to continue with that lineage, how they maintained their subjects, how they took care of everybody. So even the trees are supposed to be taken care of by the government. Then every living entity, that is Praja. And the king is so responsible actually. Tokanam pitro vandhu drishah pakshma striya patihi patihi prajanam bhikshunam gre yajnanam buddha suhrit. As a father and mother are the friends and maintainers of their children, as the eyelid is a protector of the eye, as a husband is a maintainer and protector of a woman, as a householder is a maintainer and protector of beggars, and as a learned is a friend of the ignorant, so the king is a protector and giver of life to all his subjects. The trees are also subjects of the king, therefore they should be given protection. So very, very important instruction for all of us to follow, actually. The trees are also subjects of the king, not just the king, anybody. It's everybody's responsibility. By the supreme will of the personality of Godhead, there are various protectors and maintainers for helpless living entities. The trees are also considered prajas, subjects of the king, and therefore the duty of the monarch is to protect even the trees, not to speak of others. The king is duty bound to protect the living entities in his kingdom. Thus, although the parents are directly responsible for the protection and maintenance of their children, the duty of the king is to see that all parents do their duty properly. Similarly, the king is also responsible for overseeing the other protectors mentioned in this verse. It may also be noted that the beggars who should be maintained by the householders are not professional beggars, but sannyasis and brahmins to whom the householders should supply food and clothing. Okay, so beggars mentioned here in the shloka are not just, as Prabhupada said, professional beggars, but sannyasis and brahmins to whom the householders should supply food and clothing. But even a person who is spiritually advanced, actually his heart is full of compassion, even for professional beggars. So obviously our point is we should not try to give them money, but we can give them some food. So money, we know it is quite possible they might use it in a wrong way. And even the food, we should try to give them prasadam. That'll definitely help. Antardeheshu bhutanam atmaste harireshvaraha sarvam tadhishnayam ikshadvam evam vastoshito hi aso. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated as a super soul within the cores of the hearts of all living entities, whether moving or non-moving, including men, birds, animals, trees, and indeed all living entities. Therefore, you should consider every body a residence or temple of the Lord. By such vision, you will satisfy the Lord. You should not angrily kill these living entities in the form of trees. As stated in Bhagavad Gita and confirmed by all the Vedic scriptures, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Hriddeshe Arjun Tishtati. The super soul is situated within everyone's heart. Therefore, since everyone's body is a residence of the Supreme Lord, one should not destroy the body because of unnecessary envy. That will dissatisfy the super soul. Soma told the Prachetas that because they had tried to satisfy the super soul, now they should not displease him. In fact, in the chapters where Lord Kapil Dev was giving instructions to his mother Devahuti, it was mentioned there that anybody who wants to or who thinks he is spiritually advanced, and if he does not have compassion for all other living entities, he is not advanced. He is an illusion. He is not at all advanced. Because all living entities, the super soul is sitting in the heart of every living entity. And they should be feeling of compassion. And that's how we can guess if we are making advancement. Ya samutpatitam deha akashan manyum ulbanam atma jigyasaya yache sa gunanati vartate. One who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. So subdues his powerful anger. Anger is very, very powerful. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, one whose desires are not fulfilled, he gets angry. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama, smriti vrinchad buddhi nasho, buddhi nasha pranashati. So it all starts with anger. And that's why in English it's also said, anger is just one letter away from danger. Just add D to it and it becomes danger. And how it appears, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky. The nice example Shukdev Goswami is given. Falling from the sky means If something just falls from the sky, all of a sudden it just falls. That's there. And that's how anger shows up in the body. When one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. One is always a servant of lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control them. One who obtains such control will always be transcendently situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. This is only possible when one fully engages in the service of the Lord. As Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the spiritual platform. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. So to get above all the modes of material nature, devotional service, and what kind of devotional service? Full devotional service, and one who does not fall down in any circumstance. He at once transcends the modes of material nature. And at that level only one can control anger. Anger, if it is material anger, it is very, very dangerous. If it is spiritual anger, then it is okay. Just like Arjun also got angry in the battlefield. Hanumanji got angry, so angry, he just burned down the whole Lanka. Krishna was also angry so many times with the killing the demons. Even with Arjun, he was angry when he was speaking Bhagavad Gita. Right? He was speaking of learned words, and you're talking like a child, actually. In a way, he said that. So that kind of anger is different. And that's where Prabhupada says, but if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control all these desires and all these anarthas. But material anger is very, very dangerous, actually. And how one controls? When we start making advancement, it takes time. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. It takes time. Then we start understanding or start seeing Krishna's hand everywhere. No matter what is happening in our lives, it's all orchestrated by Krishna. Most of the time, we see after many, many years or days or months later it has happened. Then we see, oh, it was all Krishna's mercy that this thing happened. But at the time when we are going through some situation, many times we don't see Krishna's hand. And then we start blaming everybody else, and we start getting angry and frustrated, and depression and stress, and so many things will follow. But a devotee, he sees Krishna's hand everywhere. And he sees Krishna, whatever he is doing it for my benefit. He's my well-wisher, he's my best friend, he's my caretaker, he's my maintainer, I'm his devotee, I'm his servant, he's my master. He cannot let anything wrong happen to me or in my life. That faith has to be there. Faith means a strong faith, nishtha. And Krishna will definitely not let anything bad happen in our lives. Bad for spiritual advancement. Materially, it could be anything. But even that, Krishna can take care of it. That's not a big deal for him. But we just have to have that faith, full faith. Arjun, such a great devotee of the Lord, that the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken to him after millions and millions of years later, when Krishna first spoke to Sun God. Then Arjun was chosen. And when the battle started, the Pandavas were losing in the beginning, because as long as Bhishma Dev was alive, there was no way Pandavas could win. And after Bhishma Dev, then came Dronacharya. But before Dronacharya was killed, Abhimanyu was sacrificed. And how many emotions we can understand Arjun must have gone through: anger, frustration, and this and that. We can only understand his situation. But one thing never happened was he never lost faith in Krishna, or in Krishna's words, or in Krishna's protection. Pandavas, throughout their lives, they went through so much. We just know little from that serial Mahabharata, because how much he could have covered. But if we read Mahabharata, then we get to know more what they all went through. But one thing was definite: they never lost faith in Krishna. In fact, we read in the prayers by Queen Kunti, was there when Krishna was leaving Hastinapur for Dwarka, and Kunti Maharani said, let the miseries come upon us again and again. Because in that situation, we always remember you and you're always with us. Now that everything is okay, you're leaving us. So if that kind of faith is there, that kind of relationship is there with Krishna, how can Krishna leave that devotee? So that faith is required. So materially, things might go haywire, which ultimately Krishna will take care of everything. And even if he doesn't, who cares? Our bhakti should always remain strong. And that's the biggest test. That's the biggest examination of our bhakti. So generally we become angry when things don't go the way we want. But we should have that faith that things are going the way Krishna wants. And it always happens. Whatever way Krishna wants, things are going to happen. Just have to have that faith. That faith will come slowly, slowly, slowly. More we perform devotion service, more we read Prabhupada's books, more we do service, chanting, etc., more faith will develop. Text 15. Alam dagdhar dhru martina khilanam shivamastu varkshihi esha varakanya patnitve prati griyatam. There is no need to burn these poor trees any longer. Let whatever trees still remain be happy. Indeed, you should also be happy. Now here's a beautiful, well-qualified girl named Marisha, who was raised by the trees as their daughter. You may accept this beautiful girl as your wife. So as we discussed yesterday, all the 10 Prachetas, they were married to this girl, Marisha, who was raised by the trees as their daughter. So I guess they were angry, and then they were given this wife and they all became happy. I don't know what happened afterwards, but at least in the scriptures it doesn't. So I guess they lived happily ever after. Itiya mantra vararoham kanyam apsarasim nripa somo raja yayo datva te dharmeno payemire. Shukdev Goswami continued, my dear king, after thus pacifying the Prachetas, Soma, the king of moon, gave them the beautiful girl born of Pramalocha Apsara. The Prachetas all received Pramalocha's daughter, who had high, very beautiful hips, and married her according to the religious system. So I guess that is also a religious system for 10 men to marry one girl. So it's the Draupadi is not the example, only example. It has happened before also. Tebhyastasyam sambhavad daksha prachetasah kil yasya praja visargena loka apuritastraya. In the womb of that girl, the Prachetas all begot a son named Daksha, who filled the three worlds with the living entities. Now it's the same Daksha. We studied about him when Lord Shiva got angry and the sacrifice and this and that, and he had the Daksha's head replaced with the head of a goat. And after he left that body, that happened during Swayambhuva Manu's time, and this is happening now in Chakshusha Manu, which is the 6th Manvantar. So Daksha had to come back. So Daksha was first born during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu, but because of offending Lord Shiva, he was punished by having the head of a goat substituted for his own head. Thus insulted, he had to give up that body. And in the 6th Manvantar, called the Chakshusha Manvantar, he was born of the womb of Marisha as Daksha. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse. His previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Daksha, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusha Manvantar. Thus, Daksha regained his previous opulence and again begot thousands and millions of children to fill the three worlds. So looks like, I think somebody had asked, what is the role of Prajapatis now? So Prajapati, it's not that, okay, so we got the human form of body, but next time if I take a human form of body, some Prajapati will make sure that I get this human body. That's why the shloka is there, no? That under the guidance of demigods, the semen from the body of father mixes with the goes into the body of mother, and that's how the baby is born. But that guidance of demigods is that the guidance of the Prajapati. So similarly, the animals, when they are born, they also under some guidance. Somebody is taking care of them. Yatha sasarja bhutani daksho duhitri vatsalaha retsa manasa cheva tanmam avahitah shrinu. Shukdev Goswami continued, please hear from me with great attention how Prajapati Daksha, who was very affectionate to his daughters, created different types of living entities through his semen and through his mind. The word Duhitra Vatsala indicates that all the Prajas were born from Daksha's daughters. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that apparently Daksha had no son. Well, actually he had sons, but this story will come later, what happened to his sons. And again, he also got angry. He got angry with Lord Shiva, and now he got angry at somebody else. And then, anyway, let the story continue. Manseva srijat purvam prajapatir imaha prajaha devasur manusyadin nabhasthal jaloksaha. With his mind, Prajapati Daksha first created all kinds of demigods, demons, human beings, birds, beasts, aquatics, and so on. Tamam brahmittam alokya prajasargam prajapatihi Vindhya Padanupavrajya so Acharat Dushkaram Tapaha. But when Prajapati Daksha saw that he was not properly generating all kinds of living entities, he approached a mountain near the Vindhya mountain range, and there he executed very difficult austerities. Tatra Ghamarshanam Nama Tirtham Papaharam Param Upsprashya Anusavanam Tapasatoshadharim. Near that mountain was a very holy place named Aghamarshana. There Prajapati Daksha executed ritualistic ceremonies and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, by engaging in great austerities to please him. Astoshitham Hansaguyena Bhagwantam Adhokshacham Tubhyam Tadam Tad Abhidhasyami Kasyat Pushyadhyata Hari. My dear king, I shall fully explain to you the Hansa Guya prayers which were offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Daksha, and I shall explain how the Lord was pleased with him for those prayers. It is to be understood that Hansa Guya prayers were not composed by Daksha, but were existing in the Vedic literature. And Daksha just offered those prayers, and the Lord was very, very much pleased by him. Anyway, we'll carry on with those prayers tomorrow. We'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.